Do you know why I made an entire video praising this VTubing agency for still being alive? Well, because it's actually an accomplishment for VTubing corpos to run seemingly free from controversy in a way that can actually make them money. Ladies and gentlemen, not even a month after that video, another company just exploded. And when I mean exploded, I mean practically every single member has left their group, with each member denouncing the company, more specifically their CEO. No, I don't even think you can really call them a company. According to this tweet, it's classified as a business, but I think a better term for it is to just call it a scam. You know, since they literally scammed most of the people they had business with. They hardly paid out anyone, including their artists and their staff. They didn't even pay out their own CEO, which worked entirely for free. I mean, just look at this dude. They owe this guy $4 grand. The CEO also ended up name-dropping the VShojo CEO multiple times as a way to reassure their members that everything is okay and wasn't actually burning up behind the scenes. And in the aftermath of all this, you have massive VTubers like Bao commenting about how poorly things were handled. This prompted me to dig a little bit deeper and read everyone's testimonies, and oh my god, there is a massive amount of Google Docs. Without further ado, let's find out what exactly happened here in this insane dumpster fire of a VTubing company. To start off, this incident marks the 20th VTuber agency to actually disband this year. And in my eyes, that's 20 groups of VTuber talents, artists, and managers and other personnel that have been part of a failing business strategy / scam. So what exactly sets this specific dumpster fire apart? Well, first off, they publicly made their announcement last year in October. To separate themselves from the others, they had a more hands-off policy when it came to auditions, which basically meant you ended up sending them an email, and if you were unlucky enough to be chosen, you got an invite. They also claimed that for whatever reason, if you decided to leave, then you would get to keep your IP, which is something that a lot of companies don't actually do, and props on them for actually doing that. You know, except for if you're this person, he was certain to be sued for $100,000 if he actually took advantage of that. They also claimed to be a Canadian company, although I couldn't really find the name in this database, although I could be using it wrong. They shared their revenue split that on paper seems fair, and casually leaked the silhouettes of 2 of their models in one of their posting. On a first glance, this seems like a legitimate VTubing agency with, you know, their well-done graphics and a very nice-looking website. They even announced that they were hiring for positions within the company. You know, even though they wouldn't actually be paid. Let's start off with the issues. Virtux debuted with 6 total members, which is by all means a lot, but it's manageable if you happen to have the right plan and resources. If you've been paying attention to what I've been showing on screen, you'll see that its CEO, Ray Flynn, aka the person running the whole entire thing, ended up debuting themselves as a VTuber. It strikes me a little crazy, but instead of running your company and managing one of the most important releases of your company, you spent time and energy debuting yourself along with your talent. Now, normally this would have been okay if Ray had the resources to do so, but you know, one look at the Google Docs and you will see that is definitely not the case whatsoever. First things first, Ray was not planning on just releasing a single wave. He was planning on releasing 3. This was something that was decided since the very beginning. You see mentions of this in many of the testimonies that was shared, with the waves being called Instinct, Spark, which never ended up releasing, and lastly Saga. And in my opinion, I think it's kind of insane to launch 3 waves of talent as a new company where people literally have never heard your name before. You have to invest time and pay multiple different people / artists to even have the chance of succeeding on the scale that Ray is trying to be on. I mean, do you even know if your business model is going to be successful in the long run? And spoiler alert, it kinda wasn't. Second off, Ray was not alone. He actually appointed his friend Kuzi as COO. Together, they were supposed to run the agency. Some important things to know. Ray met Kuzi, and Kuzi ended up renting a room from him. And as of now, he is currently his roommate. I don't know if you guys know this, but housing in Canada is a little expensive at the moment. Kuzi's job as CEO would be to do things like help run his company, like sending emails, or when Ray claimed he had a family emergency, handling a debut of a talent who has never even streamed as a VTuber before. Basically, he was supposed to do whatever Ray couldn't or needed help with. So after a while, Kuzi notices the other people in the company don't really like him and would not actively allow him to help them out in certain situations. It turns out Ray was slandering Kuzi the entire time to the entire staff/team members. This led to 10 of the members hating his guts and treating him like a villain. He said things like, "Kuzi does nothing, and I don't even know what I pay him for." It's also important to note that Kuzi never signed any contract from Ray, and he's never been paid. He's doing all of this for free. I mean, why would he anyways? When you're someone's landlord, holding someone's housing against them is way more effective than, any NDA that you can make them sign. Or any contract. I'm not joking either when I say that. Ray actually sent this message saying that making someone homeless isn't necessarily a stress-free thing. Besides the blatant slander, let's get into some of Ray's contractual shortcomings, or in some cases, a lack of a contract. Jun was promised a full-time talent manager role and ended up working while waiting for the contract for 3 months, only to be ghosted and never paid the money that was agreed upon. This unfortunately triggered a lot of issues for Jun, but that wasn't it. According to Jun, Ray also trash-talked Jun behind his back, calling him a liar and a money-hungry person. And before, people say, "Oh, you should have gotten a contract first before doing any work," Inky was unfortunate enough to actually join the company through a contract, but hasn't been paid since September of last year. Inky claims that Ray owes him around $4,000 in total. He was also promised to be their mascot as a VTuber named Riri, a whole PC from Starforge, some Gamersubs products, and a merch artist position. All of those things never came to fruition, but what did come to fruition was when Ray threatened to sue his friend Soma for $100K for trying to help the talent when he was failing to do so. I would say threatened, but he was lying about that as well and simply said that to everyone while he was getting them to spy on him. Now, this is a testimony from an anonymous source of how they were told he went against Ray's wishes and messaged the artist behind his back. He claimed that he was merciful not to sue Soma only if he dropped his past life. Being sued for $100,000 would put him in a lifetime of debt, giving his job as a bag boy at a grocery store. Okay, honestly, Ray, if you're watching this, get your colored afro out and your little squeaky nose, because this is just some clown level behavior. If you're talking like this at all, then your company, or matter of fact, anything you want to be a leader in, is most likely destined to fail. You aren't getting that $100K, since in your own words, he's a bag boy, and I highly doubt you have the money to waste on such a stupid lawsuit in the first place. Especially since, you had problems paying people at all. This is just the behavior of someone who went on an insane power trip. I highly recommend to read through all the Google Docs of these talents, as there's way more stuff that I'd like to cover. If I were to cover everything, this video would probably be like 2 hours long. But I do want to cover one last major thing: the broken promises. The biggest broken promise I've read was their supposed collaboration with VShojo, since mostly every talent had this in their documents. For a lot of people, it's the reason why the talent decided to stay in the company. He even went as far to claim as that he was personal friends with the VShojo CEO Gunrun, I hope I said that right, and that he actually bought a portion of the company and that he owned a portion of VShojo. It got to the point where he wanted to quit and claimed that he was letting the CEO Gunrun run the whole entire agency for him. In some instances, he told the COO that he was traveling to San Francisco to work at the VShojo offices. He went as far as to even show them the Airbnb that he was supposed to be staying at. Now, during his stay at San Francisco, he would continue communication through cell phone calls while saying things like, "Oh, I just stepped out of the room with some VShojo folks," or "I need to go out to some lunch with them." Now, who really knows if Ray was actually there, but the odds are he probably wasn't. This whole VShojo thing was probably the biggest lie that was repeatedly told to everyone, but he managed to get a lot of the talent to actually believe him. In one instance, when he was being slow about getting an artist for one of his talents, he claimed that he got gun run to tell Iron Mouse that they were looking for an artist because of this tweet. Honestly, this is really diabolical, since I knew it was pretty obvious, since I was following this whole entire story with Iron Mouse getting #1 on Twitch, that this model was supposed to be for Kai Cenat, since, Iron Mouse was getting a lot of hate for passing him up. But I don't blame them because, if this were to happen to me, it's kind of crazy timing. I don't know what else to say. Ray is probably one of the most delusional, pathological liars I've ever seen in my life. His lies not only destroyed his already ill-thought-out idea of a company, but actively negatively affected others in so many different ways. Well, let's talk about how this really awful scenario ended. Before all shit went loose on Twitter, he left his Discord with one last message before eventually changing his name to Sorry, like some sad, emo, depressed kid on Discord. He basically says sorry, and he intends to pay out all the debts and wipe out any pending balances. You can tell how well this went over with the people in the Discord by looking at the reactions. He also says he didn't have access to a PC until this morning, which was also a lie because he was seen playing Marvel Rivals on his Steam. Anyways, I guess he couldn't take the pressure from this massive shitstorm that he caused. All of this led him to getting called out by Bao, and he ended up deactivating his Twitter. My heart goes out to all the victims in the story, and guys, please don't harass anyone I mention, including Ray. Karma has already bit him in the ass, and he doesn't need anyone else to tell him that he sucked at running his company. Now, you guys might be asking, why would anyone ever believe all the promises he made? Well, previously, Ray was known to be more of a trustworthy person who has always followed through on their promises before. He was also known to have fairly good credentials to pull off running a VTuber company, so that gave people a lot of trust in him as well. There was really not a reason not to trust Ray, and that gave people too much faith. Now, personally, after reading many of these stories, my guess is that his ego and pride got to him, and it's what led him down this path. Now, maybe without all the lies and deceit, he might have been able to grow his company into a legit profitable business, but I don't really know, and I think the answer to that is probably not. I don't know Ray's financials or how much money he put into this, but it takes a significant amount of investment, patience, and a solid business plan to be successful in this space. I think Ray proved in his time running the company that he lacked all three of these traits. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to follow, like, subscribe, and watch my Twitch streams. Yeah, bye guys. What?